Hello and welcome to Animal Ethics in Action, a YouTube channel that aims to look at current affairs, the sort of things that we read, talk, think about from the point of view of non-human animals. I'm Natalia and this is Pip. I run a wildlife rescue unit here in London called Urban Squirrels, and we rescue grey squirrels and specialise in advocacy and advice as well. Pip is one of our clients. He's a disabled squirrel. He has a spinal deformity and very weak back legs, which he's not showing you at the moment, so he would not survive in the wild. He's one of several disabled squirrels that live with us, but Pip is different because he's actually very, very tame. He just wants to do this all the time. He wasn't treated any differently from the other squirrels, but that's just his personality. And the news item that we have chosen today is something that was reported a couple of days ago by the BBC, and it's about a group of artists, anonymous artists, a bit like British Banksy. This group calls themselves AnonyMouse, and what they do in several European towns and cities is build little structures for mice, things like shops and buildings, etc. So basically they look for, they go down the street looking for a little recess, a little bricked up cellar window or something like that, measure it up and build a little mouse size structure. Very, very pretty, very creative. Obviously they're artists to go into that space. They built, things like a pharmacy, a record shop, various houses, shops, and even a miniature castle on the Isle of Wight. When asked why they do it, they say that they actually want to show people that we share our space with other creatures. And this, I think, is a very important point for animal ethics. There seem to be two kind of paradigms as to how humans and animals can coexist. It's either the ghetto paradigm, as it were, or overlapping paradigm. So either in the ghetto model, humans live in their cities and towns and villages, and animals live in the wilderness or in nature reserves. The overlapping paradigm is where animals and humans share the habitat. Well, like here in London, in the city, we share the habitat with grey squirrels like Pip, with various species of birds, with foxes, and with rats and mice. Now, with mice, they're almost kind of archetypal type of wildlife that shares the habitat with us. They don't just kind of live with us in a niche situation like grey squirrels. They live in parks and gardens, we live in houses. Mice actually share the buildings with us. Humans and mice live virtually on top of each other. And that can create its own problems. Can create conflicts when these animals go inside the houses. Now, there are, of course, perfectly humane solutions for these problems. For example, mice go into the houses in search of food, so covering food and making sure the floor is clean will certainly make the house, inside the house, less attractive for mice. I've heard it said, I don't know if it's true or not, that one person eating for one day will drop enough crumbs to feed one mouse for a day. But anyway, if we keep the kitchen clean and the food covered, that will be less attractive for mice. Also, as with all wildlife that comes into people's houses, we need to make sure there are no access points. It's a bit elementary, but nonetheless, it's very often a point that is missed. Mice get into houses via air vents or cracks around pipes or cables, and all these, it has to be only very small, just 2.5 centimeters, and a mouse can get in. So the way not to allow mice into the living space is to do up the access points. That is the only way to keep wildlife out of the house, whether it's squirrels or mice or rats. You have to do up the access points. And then if any mice are accidentally left in the house, they can be trapped humanely. There are commercial humane traps and they can be taken out. That is perhaps slightly problematic from the welfare point of view. Relocating any animal is very stressful for that animal. So if you kind of catch a mouse, even a humane trap, and take them to the local park and release them, there is a question mark over whether they will survive. How will they find food? And it's cold, they don't have shelter, they're predators, but at least it's kind of better than killing them in the way pest control does. Unfortunately, for many people, the way forward is pest control, where mice are killed in fairly horrible ways. Now, the question arises of why people go for pest control. It's expensive, it's cruel, where there are obvious humane solutions for solving the conflict. I think it is, as in many other cases, a question of mindset, of how we see these animals. We kind of form a concept of what this animal is. And if we see a mouse as a sentient creature, as a little mammal, as a fellow mammal, and actually a mammal that's clever enough and adaptable enough to live with us in our ecological mess, to kind of feed on our waste, to adapt our dwelling for their own accommodation, etc., we will find mice rather interesting and endearing. And of course, if we keep good fences make good neighbors, if we keep ourselves a little bit separate, we can coexist quite happily. But that is if the semantic field, the semantic cloud, is sentient creature, fellow mammal here on planet Earth. However, if we go for the semantic cloud of pest vermin problem, then we will be tempted to go for the pest control solution. It's actually hard to kill a sentient creature, just as it is hard to kill a human being. First, you have to relabel them, rebrand them as enemy, then you can kill them. And in the case of animals, you have to rebrand them as, yes, problem pest vermin, then you're psychologically prepared to kill them. But of course, if we stop and think for a moment, if we use language rather than allow language to use us, we can ask ourselves, what does pest, what does vermin mean? How would we define those words? Is it a creature that spreads diseases, destroys the environment? And now, who actually fits that description very well indeed? And really, anyone at this point in time who worries about mice spreading diseases probably lived in a bunker for the last year. So it is, I believe, a question of mindset, a question of respecting animals and seeing problems that occur with them, sometimes as a matter of conflict that needs a peaceful resolution, rather than, let's call, pest control, who, of course, I mean, they make money out of killing animals. Of course, they will both exaggerate the danger and also not look for obvious solutions, such as doing up access points, because the more mice come in your house, the more money they will get from you. So the financial incentive there for them is not to solve the problem, but to keep killing. So I think, as in so many other cases, I believe it is a question of mindset, of changing our attitude to animals. And from that point onwards, we can become far more creative about this. And perhaps one day we can all start building little houses for mice at the bottom of our garden or in parks. It is, I mean, I've linked to the video in the BBC video in the description to here. So do have a look. It's really, really cute, very creative, very interesting. I know one person who will, if he's watching this, you will definitely be very interested in this BBC video of the mouse houses. And perhaps one day we'll all be recreating them, showing our children how cute that is, teaching our children to respect wildlife. No, you don't touch them, you watch them, and they are very interesting to observe. And out of that situation, we can also start limiting the mouse population if necessary, because we can offer food in those structures or near those structures, and the food can contain contraceptives. Well, at the end of the day, this is how we limit our population as human beings, through fertility control. This is how we limit the population of our traditional companion animals, such as cats and dogs, through fertility control. So in future, perhaps that could be done for mice as well, so that everyone can live in peace. Isn't that right, Pip? Okay, he has been contributing rather a lot, hasn't he? Pip he's just moved into, well, his big cage has just been extended, and poor thing, he's rubbed his foot raw because he's now got too much space, and he's rubbing his knee on it. I think we need to pad it out with blankets. As you can see, he's very, very active. Anyway, well, thank you very much for listening, watching. Please like, subscribe, comment if you wish to, and we will see you next week. Thank you.